There's this thing called Project 2025. It's been all over the place, just like this program to kind of co-opt the government and hand it over to Donald Trump. It's nuts. Like I said, a bunch of stuff out there about it. I have other videos, so I'm not going to go into it too much right now. But the news just released their training videos that they give to people. And oh my God, they're crazy. These are training videos designed for common people that have never been involved in politics before, but are about to be appointed as political appointees on Donald Trump's behalf to whatever. The EPA, the Department of Energy, the Department of Education, anywhere along the chain. So listen to this. This is from their first training video. I think it's called Language and Codewords, and it's just nuts.
Hi, I'm Katie Sullivan, and just a normal American woman.
I don't believe you.
But to the left, that makes me a cisgendered ethno-imperial.
You seeing her head bob? Look at it. Cisgendered. Well, watch this. Cisgendered, ethno-imperialist, whatever the f she said.
Cisgendered, ethno-imperialist, birthing person with...
Birthing person, okay.
With pronouns she, her.
No. You're just a fucking asshole to me, personally. That's just my opinion on the subject. But okay. Sorry, try not to swear too much. Certainly not at the beginning of videos.
She, her. Words like that are quite a mouthful, and it's one America needs to spit out before we choke on it.
Nobody says this stuff. Some of those terms are used in academic literature for academic purposes. Nobody goes around talking about women or just referring to women as birthing persons. Seriously? I've literally never heard anybody outside of an academic setting or being ironic use the term birthing person. Usually it's assigned female at birth, right?
Bethany, are your children afraid of monsters in the attic or under the bed?
Yeah, they have been.
Former Deputy Chief of Staff under Donald Trump, who this woman is on the right.
Yeah, they have been, but we always tell them that they do not exist.
Today we have news. There are monsters in Uncle Sam's attic.
It's the words, phrases, definitions that are used, which may look like one thing, but absolutely mean another. And it is scary.
During this training, we will identify the problem.
You are the problem. I've already identified it. We can skip that.
Discuss examples from our time in the federal government, as well as the 5 cross-cutting principles of the current administration. We will teach you how to unwind the words and phrases that have been so artfully layered into every document in the federal government. You can do this in any role at any level of seniority. This training will prepare you to make changes and fast.
I talked about this in the video that released yesterday or the day before this one released, but Republicans constantly talking about a deep state, right? It's a big conspiracy theory, the deep state, the deep state. There is no deep state in reality. But what they're referring to, specifically the people who produced this video, the people sitting here talking to us, the Heritage Foundation, they believe that the deep state is just regular government employees, just people that, you know, clock in every day, clock out at the end of the night, make a normal paycheck, work for Homeland Security or the FBI or the whatever. It's not somebody that like the president specifically appoints to that position or who is specifically loyal to the president. So Anthony Fauci served under what was like 6 presidents or something. I think he served under Reagan for the AIDS crisis, George H.W. Bush, Clinton, George W. Bush, Obama, and then Trump, and then under Obama. So I think that's 7. He was not a political person. He was just doing his job. That's the vast majority of the U.S. government. The people who are throwing wrenches into everything are people appointed by presidents. And it's only like, I don't know, 3,000 people across the entire federal government that are appointed. But it's people that like control the FBI, like James Comey, for example. Anyway, these people on screen, they're trying to create a deep state. Like this whole thing has been, like these training videos, through all of them, the connecting theme has been, we're trying to increase the number of political appointees, and we're trying to make sure that power is centralized, quote unquote. I'm not like just sticking that word in there. They said that. We want you to rescind any authority that your subordinates might have so that every decision has to pass through you first. And you are loyal to the president. I mean, they have a bunch of slides in these videos about it. Right here, this is just like an example of one of the slides in their training videos. First steps to take as a cabinet secretary. On day one, you must rescind all delegations of authority to your subordinates. This will ensure no official below you can perform an official agency action without your approval. Place political appointees in the proper roles beneath you before day one. Use the myriad tools at your disposal to clear the way of insubordinate careerists. Reassign them, incentivize them, and as a last resort, fire them. They're creating a deep state. And in the deep state, they're describing what role language and code words and dog whistles and propaganda or whatever will have. By the way, check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate that very much. owenmorgan.com/Patreon. Also, I'd appreciate if you guys would watch to the end of the video. Increasing watch time gives a video a massive jump. So
the left continually pivots and assaults definitions and phrases. They twist words and phrases to support subconscious acceptance of a philosophy that was rejected or is against the grain of human existence.
No?
Like, what is a woman?
Okay, that's an academic question raised by academic. Honestly, it's not even raised by anybody. Everyone knows what a woman is, okay? Jesus Christ, dude. These people are obsessed with the stupidest stuff. You know why? Because it's something that whips people into a blood frenzy. They know that they can campaign on pissing people off about this. No one wonders what a woman is. Everybody knows. No one is asking that question except for right-wing extremists. Jesus.
Like, what is a woman? Perhaps the most effective tool the left wields is their ability to engage in constant subliminal advertising through their narrative, words, and phrases.
It seems like she's implying that the left engages in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where you kind of slip certain words in here or there to kind of subliminally program people to believe this or whatever. It doesn't really work that way. NLP, I guess, can be used to some degree a little bit, but it's not really a method of brainwashing somebody. But they're going to try to stick their language in everywhere they can and erase language that they don't like. For the record, this is exactly, again, this is what happened in Germany in the 20s and 30s. I don't like to keep bringing it back to that. I don't believe that Trump is like Hitler. Hitler was absolutely nuts. But the environment that produced Hitler was a hyper-nationalist, extremist right-wing state. And that is what we are in right now. Or that's what we're headed toward at the very least. Same stuff. Hitler did this exact stuff right here. He banned certain words in government, on government documents or whatever.
Marxism became socialism, then democratic socialism, and is now represented by the terms social justice and equity.
And who came up with those terms exactly, or who is accusing the left of believing those things? Nobody that I personally know believes in any of the that she just laid out. Marxism and socialism and communism and blah, 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 blah. Sure, there are some communists in the country, I suppose, probably. I'm sure that there are some socialists around. Sure, yeah, there are socialists. But there are no socialists, except maybe 3 in Congress. And even then, are they? There are no communists in Congress anywhere on any level, as far as I can tell. I've never heard of that. You know what there are, though? There are white supremacists in Congress. This problem they're outlining does not exist on the left. I'm not going to bother defending Marxism or socialism or communism or whatever. It's irrelevant. I'm just going to point out that this is fake. It's fabricated culture war outrage. So what she's pointing out here is that Republicans have escalated insults and slander against the left.
By the terms social justice and equity. This is perhaps the most scary of all.
Katie, what brings to mind is the quote, "He who controls the language rules the world." It's attributed to Joseph Stalin and other tyrants. And George Orwell stated, "He who controls language controls culture."
Dude, I love that they are actually doing what they're complaining about right now. They are trying to control the language and the culture, right? Isn't that what they're doing right now in this video?
Even more, Hitler and others lived by the creed. If you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it. Without doubt, it's true. Language is a powerful and often controlling tool.
Dude, the level of self-awareness blows me away. There's zero. Or are these people self-aware? Do they realize that Donald Trump does nothing but lie, 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 and convince everybody around him that it's true by saying it constantly? Every time he hits a media outlet, he says the same thing. It's the same line of propaganda every single time. They must realize that, right? She's a lawyer on the right. She's not stupid. It's like Ben Shapiro. He's not stupid. They aren't. The people that work for Donald Trump and around him, they're not idiots. I don't believe that. And that leads me to like one conclusion, that they're cynical actors that are trying to like further their own goals and interests and sacrificing anybody or anything along the way to do it. Anyway, check this next one out from them.
We can tell you the words and phrases being used today, but by the time you enter the administration, these examples may be obsolete. This will help you spot crucial issue areas to pay close attention to.
So I cut a little bit out there, I think, but she said using the term birthing person may be obsolete because they're just going to switch it to completely androgynous language or some other thing like that. I don't remember now. But she's just going completely over the top and claiming like the left is coming to get you. The degree of paranoia in these people's brains is absolutely unmatched.
We do not know what they will be calling men and women by the time you begin your tenure with the administration.
Are you serious?
The left is trying to dismantle America and rebuild it in their own image by using the art of deception.
Literally what they are doing in this video. That is the intent of this video. The self-awareness is off the charts.
Their own image by using the art of deception, and words and definitions are their weapon of choice. Remember, words change culture.
So yeah, that's the point. Words change culture, and these people are desperate to make that happen for themselves. What language does she like think the left is co-opting or whatever the hell? I'll tell you what language she thinks the left is using. Climate change. They want to eliminate the term climate change from all federal documents all the way up the chain.
Climate change allegedly is everywhere. And if the
It is? Climate change is everywhere?
everywhere. And if the American people elect a conservative president, his administration will have to eradicate climate change references from absolutely everywhere.
By the way, controlling language, that's what they're doing.
And according to our intelligence community, the number one threat facing our country today is, drumroll, climate change. Not Russia, not China, not AI, climate change.
That's accurate. Yes, absolutely. You know why? Because as we lose Florida, there are going to be climate refugees in the United States. People's houses are going to be underwater. Then they're going to have nowhere to go. How much money do you think it's going to cost the federal government to fix that? Which they're going to have to do. Billions, nay, trillions. Numbers have been worked out how much it's going to cost the federal government to deal with climate change. How much was it? According to the World Economic Forum, it costs about $16 million per minute to deal with climate change for the world, not just the US, for the world. The global cost of climate change damage is estimated to be between 1.7 trillion and 3.1 trillion per year by 2050. You know, we had a technological breakthrough not too long ago, a few years ago, that makes it possible for us to use fully renewable energy. One of our big setbacks, or one of our the bottlenecks to it, was batteries. Having batteries that could hold enough of a charge to keep electricity going, you know, indefinitely. That was the big issue. But we solved all of the problems, and we can actually build out a fully 100% renewable energy source right now, today. The United States could be fully renewable energy if we wanted. It would cost about the same amount we spent on the Iraq War, about $6 trillion in the United States. Worldwide, it'd cost about 30 trillion to outfit literally everybody. But instead, we're spending 1.7 to 3.1 trillion per year, or we will be by 2050. But yeah, okay, go on. Tell me more about how climate change is not a huge threat to America.
Climate change. This shows how the federal government is all in on this issue. And climate change activists wield a lot of power. This is an issue to pay attention to as it has infiltrated every part of the federal government. Now, when I think of climate change, I immediately think of population control, don't you?
No? What? She's trying to get people whipped into a blood frenzy over conspiracies. Why doesn't the right want to accept climate change? I mean, the people at the top, like these guys. Why don't they want to accept climate change? In my opinion, it's because it would be damaging to the oil industry. And the oil industry has lobbyists that have so much money, it's ridiculous. Every single member of Congress, up and down the line, to my knowledge, takes donations from like lobbyist groups and stuff. Use super PACs and things. I don't see any other reason why they'd be denying it. What other reason could there possibly be? They know it's nonsense, in my opinion, the people who wrote the script for this, I believe. So they have to tie it to a real tangible problem. What is the issue? There is none. They're trying to get you freaked out over something, and it's depopulation. Like, what? Like, nobody's trying to control population. Get a grip on reality.
I really think of population control, don't you? I think about the people who don't want you to have children because of the impact on the environment.
I don't care how many kids you have. Makes no difference to me. Has anybody ever said that to anybody?
Perhaps not everyone will make that connection, but after spending time in the international space,
Oh, they'll make that connection now, intentionally.
time in the international space trying to protect life, I can tell you that this is part of their ultimate goal.
Who is they? Are they in the room with us right now?
Is part of their ultimate goal to control people.
Who's trying to control people? Who's trying to depopulate the planet or whatever? That's bad. That would be a bad thing to, like, depopulate. For economies, governments would never want to depopulate their country or whatever. Their economy would shrink. They wouldn't have enough money to pay out benefits for the previous existing class or whatever, and they'd go broke in one generation. In fact, we need to bring in as many immigrants as we can right now. Build the population up. It's so economically stimulative, it's ridiculous to add more people to the economy. Putting people on paper, documenting immigrants and refugees and things, would mean they're now paying taxes, and it would be a massive boom. Instead, what are they doing? Fear-mongering about depopulation? Where did they even come up with this? Why is this a conspiracy theory on her lips? Just like a minute after that, she lays out an absolutely insane example. Here, listen to this.
When I arrived at USAID, I had a career employee ask me how many children I had.
Right, because she was, remember, she's a political appointee by Donald Trump. He picked her to lead an agency.
Ask me how many children I had. I thought it was a bit odd of a question, but to be kind, I answered, and I said I had 3 children. And he actually said to me, "Oh, wow, 1.5 too many for the environment."
Come on. Really? He did not say that. This person is fictitious, isn't he? Just tell the truth. Who has ever said those words before, ever? You know who I have a problem with? The Duggars. They have so many kids, it's ridiculous. But that's not like a climate change issue, really. I'm not telling specific people, don't do this or don't do that. We need to create regulation to solve problems. And I don't think that people should be regulated. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry. I don't think people's reproduction should be regulated. Should say that. But it doesn't matter, because as far as we can tell, the Earth is going to reach an equilibrium and max out at inhabitants at about 12 billion, to my knowledge. We won't hit 12 billion. I think it's just going to creep up and then it's going to fall. It's already falling in China. Not because of government regulation, not because of anything like that. It's because people just don't want to have kids. That's it. And that's their choice. Fine. Don't have kids. I don't care if you have kids, is the point. I don't believe this story. I just don't.
I answered and I said I had 3 children. And he actually said to me, "Oh, wow, 1.5 too many for the environment." I smiled and I said very politely, if I could have 10 more children, I would.
Well, why don't you then? They live in their own little delusional fantasy land. It is absolutely nuts. And they also touched on immigration and citizenship and human rights and stuff. It was wild. Listen to this one.
Language matters here for a lot of reasons, but primarily because citizens of the United States have rights that others, including foreign nationals who are illegally on our soil, do not.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Kind of putting their hand on the table, aren't they? They don't want people to be documented citizens or whatever, because then they're entitled to protection of the Constitution. In my opinion, everybody should be protected by the Constitution. I don't care if you're a citizen or not. You should not be subjected to unreasonable search and seizure. You should be able to practice your religion and speak your mind anytime you want. The First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Second Amendment is complicated. I don't believe it's talking about everybody owning any gun they want at any time. It's very clearly not talking about that. But what's the Third Amendment? You don't have to quarter troops in your house. Fifth Amendment, you don't have to incriminate yourself. God, I don't remember all of them now. But anyway, the point is that everybody should be protected by those rights. She says we don't want them to have human rights because then they have protection against what we intend to do to them. Holy bro.
Others, including foreign nationals who are illegally on our soil, do not. If I had to guess, I would say that the left's attempt to wash away the term alien stems from...
But just for the record, again, I don't want to keep pulling it back to Hitler, but I'm doing a lot of research on this right now. And in Germany in the 20s and 30s, that's the word that they used. They referred to illegal aliens. And you know who those illegal aliens were? Jews. They were the immigrants in Germany in the 20s and 30s. The Jewish question was really rephrased as the immigrant problem. How do we deal with the Jewish question? How do we deal with the immigrant problem? It's the same problem over there. It's the same thing, the same rhetoric, the same words used by the Heritage Foundation.
Their disdain of actual law, since they want to avoid discussion of what federal immigration law actually requires, which is everything they refuse to do, and their interest in washing away the overall value of citizenship.
Citizenship isn't important if everybody has the right to free speech. Only you should have that right. That's insane.
Remember, citizenship places a focus on nationality and sovereignty. The left has bought into the globalist vision of a borderless world, and their language choices reflect that.
I don't believe in a borderless world. What are you talking about? Again, fictitious world that they live in. Nobody is in favor of this. Almost nobody. I don't know anybody who's in favor of this. Like, who's trying to get rid of the border? You can either have a welfare program or you can not have borders. And I don't know, like, a lot of libertarians are opposed to borders, interestingly. I'm okay with borders, and I'm okay with there being a process to get into the United States. To my knowledge, I haven't looked the stats up, but if it's in the video and you're hearing me say this right now, it means that it's accurate. Otherwise, I'll cut it in post. The vast majority of immigrants who are undocumented are people who flew in on a visa and just overstayed their visa. Not people who crossed over a border or whatever. You know who the people are who crossed over the border? Refugees. People from war-torn areas. Largely war-torn as a result of the United States actions, too, some of them. And they're not, like, going over a wall or whatever. They're going through a humanitarian corridor, which is legally required by international law, to go straight to the refugee center, the UN Refugee Center, to apply for asylum. That's what's happening. They're not immigrants. They're refugees. Anyway, if you want to stop illegal immigration or whatever from European countries, okay, that's a conversation we could have, but that's not the conversation she wants to have. Ever noticed how every time she talks about illegal immigration, it's always in reference to people crossing over the border, the southern border. Never in reference to Europeans overstaying their visas. Never. I've never heard them complain about that. The whole border issue, the border like line of propaganda, if you will, is designed to serve a purpose for them. Like with climate change. Like, what's the point of, how are they getting people freaked out about climate change? They're getting them freaked out by saying they're trying to depopulate the planet. How do they get people freaked out over immigration? Immigration is so good for the United States. Oh my God. There's like no downside practically to immigration. Seriously, think about it. There's no downside. What's the only downside? The one and only downside to immigration in their minds? They're not white. They don't speak English. I can't think of a single other reason for them to hate immigration. But how do they get people freaked out about it without saying something real racist? This.
But make no mistake, the current mass illegal immigration we are seeing as a result of the Biden administration's intentional actions is not migration, and these people are not migrants. It is an orchestrated invasion being led by the Biden administration in conjunction with the Mexican cartels. The bottom line is...
That's it. Invasion. Orchestrated by cartels. That's the claim. It's false, of course, but that's their claim. They're trying to make it out as though cartels are trying to take over the U.S. government by sending a bunch of immigrants into the United States so that they can vote in favor of whichever president they want to get in. In reality, you can't vote you can't vote for the president for something like 5 to 7 years after coming here. It's a long, difficult, arduous process. And honestly, not everybody even goes through it. Some people just get their green card and don't go for citizenship. They just keep the green card, in which case you cannot vote in federal elections. And additionally, you can't vote in any elections if you're undocumented. How would you even register? You need like an ID to register to vote and like a permanent address and stuff. Undocumented immigrants have none of those things. No one is coming for you. No one is doing an invasion or whatever. What is wrong with you? My God. Anyway, tell me what you think about these people. This is just nuts. Absolutely nuts. I'm so entertained by the degree of craziness in this whole thing. If you want to watch like the whole training video with me, I go through it on my Owen Morgan Unfiltered channel, 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So check that out. And tell me what you think in the comments.